Back when flip phones were still cool, Neo had just dodged bullets in the Matrix and the world was losing its mind over Final Fantasy X. A quiet revolution was brewing. Bethesda had just released The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, a game unlike anything most of us had played before, an open world not just to explore, but to reshape. Bundled with the game was the construction set, a suite of tools that looked more like software for developers than something a player should touch. But for those who dared, it was a doorway. This was the beginning of a community that didn't just play the Elder Scrolls, they built it, expanded it, argued about lore in forums, released broken plugins and zip files, and quietly laid foundation for one of the most vibrant modding cultures in gaming history. I had heard of Tamriel Rebuilt. The name was legendary, but I didn't know the full story. Was it still being developed today? Who is all involved with it? How large was the scope of the project? To understand it, I had to look back, not just to when it began, but to the roots that led there, and the branches that grew from it, to build a complete picture, one that stretches from the earliest ideas to where we are now. Technically, modding in the Elder Scrolls universe didn't begin with Morrowind. It began with its predecessor. Released in 1996, Daggerfall had a massive, procedurally generated world, and while it didn't come with official tools, players began editing save files, hex values, and eventually creating homebrew tools to modify quests and items. It was crude, it was unstable, but it was the spark. And though Daggerfall was a cult success in its own right, Morrowind wielded with it its most important element, a port to console. Suddenly, the Elder Scrolls wasn't just a PC oddity, but it was reaching living rooms across the world. The Xbox release introduced the game to a much broader audience, while the PC version quietly empowered that audience to tinker, alter, and expand the game beyond recognition. Then came Morrowind in 2002, and this time Bethesda made a bold choice. They gave players the same toolset their developers had used. It was like handing over the keys to Tamriel. Within months, mods were appearing everywhere. New swords, new houses, new races. Some of it was barely functional, some of it was brilliant, and some of it would go on to influence game design itself. Morrowind's awkwardness, its strange interfaces, its mysterious world design, its uncanny tone, would not only make it memorable, it would make it moddable. This was not a polished, complete world. It was a fascinatingly unfinished one. And for modders, that made it a fertile ground, the first quiet explosion in what would become a chain reaction, year after year, game after game, mod after mod. Without Discord or YouTube, early modders shared their work on message boards, IRC channels, and niche fan sites. Places like Planet Elder Scrolls and Elder Scrolls forums became incubators of creativity and chaos. Looking at you, pig modding. This was the Wild West, a place where people with no formal training were teaching themselves level design, scripting, and storytelling. Some modders became legends. Red for custom heads, Emma for companions, and the founders of Tamriel Rebuilt for building a world beyond the game's borders. As I began piecing this series together, I knew I couldn't start with the tools alone. I needed voices. And so the first stop on my research was an archive of over 20 hours of modder interviews, thanks to the incredible work of the Morrowind Modding Showcases YouTube channel.
Greetings and welcome to the 8th episode of Morrowind Modding Interviews. With me today is Yeti. With me tonight is Melkor Dark. I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy, and with me today is Danae.
Hey there.
Nearly all of the interviews were conducted by a single host, Dark Elf Guy, whose calm curiosity and deep respect for the scene helped draw out rich stories from dozens of modders. What I found was so pleasant. A plethora of different people from different walks of life. Engineers, artists, students, retirees.
Be busy recently.
Yep, working on my own mods and, working on moving from the house and such has been keeping me pretty busy, but...
We had a person who designed a lot of the houses for us, briefly. I believe Archmagister Antares, or I'm afraid I can't pronounce his name.
Oh yeah, my go-to was the pawnbroker in Balmora, since she was, all alone in her shop there. It's like, okay, I'll just kill you, take all your shop goods, and just make a home here.
And that's easy. My first mod, which I'm fairly sure is going to be my last mod as well, is my house, Pegasus Estate.
I picked Morrowind off a store shelf in, I think, 2008. And at the time I'd been like following the previews and reviews for Oblivion.
Some looking to add a missing feature, others building new continents. Some mods were made in a weekend, others over decades. These interviews weren't just data, they were culture, history, passion, and they're helping me build something bigger, a grand timeline, one that spans decades, projects, and people all woven together by a shared love for this strange and wonderful world called Tamriel. While the earliest days of Elder Scrolls modding weren't polished, they weren't always stable, but they were electric. They laid the groundwork for a culture that would outlive the games themselves and prove that some of the best content doesn't come from the studios. It comes from fans with a vision and the tools to bring it to life. Next time we'll journey into the rise of Tamriel Rebuilt and the impossible dream of building all of Morrowind by hand. And while I'm going through all of these interviews, my curiosity has just been too piqued. I'm gonna have to make a mod.